All right, Nick, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. I think Cowboys fans, we've been reacting to Schottenheimer at the hire here for a while now. It's been some people who thought it was okay, but a lot of people have come out and been, I would say, overly negative about it. And we've been seeing reports lately just of people from around the league, different guys, different coaches being hired, ready to work with Schottenheimer. It's really good feeling around the organization. And someone really important, one of the all time greats, has stepped out and talked about his relationship with Schottenheimer and how great he thinks this is as a hire for the Dallas Cowboys. But before we get into who that is, I'm Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, one of the all time greats coming out talking about how great of a coach Schottenheimer will be. Let's get on into it when we talk more about it on the other side. This is from over on X at Brandon Laurie. It says Drew Brees shares his thoughts on Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer, who was his QB coach back in the day with the Chargers. Brees said, I love him. He's a great coach and a great communicator. Who better than Drew Brees to come out and give you his seal of approval? One of the all-time greats. I think Drew Brees really holds a lot of weight. His opinions on how a offensive-minded coach is going to go. Nick, I'm curious what your thoughts are on what this means for the Cowboys, but Cowboys fans, in the comment section below, let us know. Does the endorsement from Drew Brees, does that change your mind about the hire if you were on the fence? If you weren't on the fence, if you really liked it, does it make you feel even better about it? Let us know if this changes anything in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on this latest endorsement for the Cowboys?
Well, I think it's an indicator that sometimes people and the fans and the media and all that, you kind of, because you're kind of disassociated from the day-to-day operations of football in the NFL, right? Because obviously none of us are like working in an NFL locker room with an NFL team directly. So we're kind of disconnected. Obviously, a lot of the media is, and it's exacerbated by the talking heads on these stupid debate shows that you see on the Four Letter Network and Fox Sports and things like that, where there's no intelligence, there's no experience in terms of, hey, what do people actually dive into a certain player, coach, or general manager, front office executive, whatever the case may be, to actually provide insight. It's a lot of like, I don't like this, and I'm going to scream and yell for 20 minutes, so we're going to take a quick commercial break. And that's just what has happened to the media, and it's exacerbated things like the Schottenheimer hire, where a lot of people freak out. But when you actually listen to people that know football and actually that have worked in this business for a very long time, and Drew Brees, of course, there's no one arguably better than Drew Brees. You look at Schottenheimer and say, this guy knows what he's talking about. And then we've seen reports after the fact, after the hire, about his relationships. And we've seen the hires the Cowboys have made. Their offensive coordinator hires outstanding. In fact, Eberflus as the DC is outstanding. Some people have some questions about Sorensen, the special teams guy, since he was a D coordinator with the 49ers. I kind of like that hire because I kind of want my special teams guy to be a little less Bones Fossil with the aggressiveness and a little more defensive minded. So I actually kind of like that approach from Schottenheimer. We've heard this from a bunch of people across the league, not just Breeze. You hear it from former executives, you hear it from former coaches. Everyone is impressed with Schottenheimer. He is a team guy. He is a smart guy. He's a great communicator. There are all kind of reports that he was very frustrated with Mike McCarthy's offensive strategy and play calling, the lack of motion, the lack of play action, but he reportedly bit his tongue and went along to support the game plan. I kind of like that. This is a guy who is willing to do what it takes, what's best for his boss, the offensive play caller, the head coach, Mike McCarthy, in this situation. Now, he runs the show. He can implement what he wants to do. And believe me, players see that and players buy into that. I played college football, D1 AA FCS, nothing big, of course. But there were situations in some coaching staffs where the assistant coaches, if they weren't fully bought into the head coach, you could tell with that strategy and it trickled down to the players. But sometimes you got assistant coaches that were fully bought in. And we honestly never knew if they actually liked the strategy or not. But once they were bought in, we were forced to be bought in too. It's what good leaders do. Schottenheimer was a good leader. I think that's why we look at guys like Drew Brees saying, I respect the heck out of him. He's a smart guy. He's a great communicator. And this is a Cowboys team that if you look at across the board and look at what they've done this offseason, it's pretty darn good. We'll have to see what happens in the draft and free agency and trades. There's a lot of deals lurking around, a lot of extensions, Parsons, Smith, Aubrey that have to be made. Hopefully to see some restructuring. Looking at you, Dak Prescott's deal, that's absolutely going to happen. Has to happen. You would think it would, of course. But the reality is when you listen to people that know football, Drew Brees at the top of the list here, The Cowboys have done a really nice job so far. And I know there's a lot of negativity, and rightly so in a lot of cases. But so far, first few weeks of 2025, if you listen to the experts, there's a lot more reasons to be positive in Dallas.
Yeah, Nick, and getting back to the media and kind of the thoughts on media about things, people need to remember and realize if we go back at, the outside of any of these people changing careers, doing things like that. I remember specifically two guys in particular when you look at a Dan Orlovsky or Robert Griffin III, when they change organizations or things like that, they come out and they say, hey, we're told to pick a side. We're told to, if it's not something where, if everyone's on the same page, someone's got to be the odd man out. So you're told to, spark the argument, get things riled up. It's entertainment at the end of the day. Some of these news media shows you see. So I can see why people watch these things and get worked up. But it's like you said, you got to look at the experts. You got to look at the people in the know. You got to look at the future Hall of Famers, people to come out and say something good about this guy. I haven't heard anyone come out that has any real merit in the situation and say anything bad about Schottenheimer or how they think this is a bad hire. I think everybody who's got some, expert analysis, who has credit, been in the game, been an expert of the game, they're coming out and say this is a good move for Dallas. This is a strong hire. He's a great guy. Like Drew Brees says, good communicator, good coach. What more things do you want? I mean, I think this really seems like a very strong move. And it's like you said, all of the subsequent hires they made, really starting to like what is going on in Dallas. Obviously, the results, at the end of the day, they have to be shown on the field. But as far as the coaching cycle goes, it's something different finally. There's a change. You can see that they're trying to do something different as far as the people they've hired, be less flashy, glitz and glam, less ESPN, coming and having to argue for the sake of argument, and more nitty gritty, more X's and O's, more football focused guys. I really like what's going on in Dallas here. I think this is going to be a strong move for them going forward.
And one final point to end on here, Drew Brees, he's not in the media regularly, right? He called games for like a year, a number of years ago. He has no skin in the game with anything. If he doesn't like Schottenheimer, he's got no reason to say anything nice. If he has no opinion about Schottenheimer, he's got no reason to say anything nice, right? He could just sit there and say the standard, oh yeah, I worked with him, yeah, I think he's going to be he's going to do good, right? And we all kind of know what that is. But in this situation, he was honest. And look, people, check out the podcast, a Scoop City show. Highly recommend it. Chase Daniels actually, he's on one of those networks, he actually tries, at least in his show, to be a little bit more analytical. So highly recommend check out his stuff there, whether it's on X or YouTube or whatever. But the reality is, Drew Brees knows he has no reason to say nice things about Schottenheimer. We're talking decades since Coach Schottenheimer coached Drew Brees with the Chargers. So the fact that he came out and said this, to me, is again ringing endorsement. Guy has nothing to gain from saying anything nice except maybe his reputation. Because if he crashes and burns, Schottenheimer does, Drew Brees is going to look like an idiot. Despite that, Brees comes out and says this again. A lot of people who really know what they're talking about, who actually know football at the NFL level, are supporting Schottenheimer. No guarantee it will work out, but it's the best sign yet that he was a good hire.